Aloha, mes amis. Je suis moi, Creole de Marmalade. Welcome back to my channel. And if you are new, bienvenue. So, for today, we are going to talk about El Conejito Malo, Mr. Bad Bunny himself. He just recently came out with a new album titled Debi Tirar Más Fotos. And there is a song in particular that really grabbed my heart. Like all the songs are just this is just a whole new era for him. He is in his old school Puerto Rican, he's in his real life Puerto Rican bag, salsa. Just if you see the way he looks now, he just but yeah, so all his songs on that album are all like just dedicated to Puerto Rico, and like he loves his home country. And I can only respect that. Puerto Rico is freaking beautiful. The people are beautiful. So I love that he loves his hometown as much as I love mine. So yeah, so there's one song in particular that really just like grabbed my heart, and that was the song entitled Lo Que Le Pasó a Hawaii, which translates to what happened to Hawaii. So the reason I love this song so much is because Bad Bunny is comparing the current state of Puerto Rico to Hawaii. And if you didn't know, well, I hope you know that Hawaii is a state in America. But if you didn't know about Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. So it's not actually a state, but it's a territory. So, but they are in talks of, it becoming an official state. So with that conversation, that has led Bad Bunny to, kind of compare, well, what happened to Hawaii when it became a state, and, him seeing signs of the same thing happening to Puerto Rico. And what I mean is basically Americanization, gentrification, all the things that tend to happen to these places when they become, Americanized or a part of America. Um, and so that's his fear. His fear is that Puerto Rico can suffer the same fate as Hawaii. Hawaii became a U.S. territory in 1898, and then it became an official U.S. state in 1959. And with this came the subtle decline of Hawaiian culture, because Hawaii had been its own sovereign nation, independent, like it had been its own thing for centuries prior to American acquisition. And, the Polynesians had gone there centuries before. Like it was a fully developed Polynesian place with its own culture, people, language, the Hawaiian language, everything. So, of course, when it became part of America, it became a heavy tourist attraction. You don't need a passport to go there, of course, if you're American, because it's an American state. So this made traffic increase. Of course, America's going to open up a bunch of businesses and just sort of commercialize it and make it fun and cutesy for the tourists. And of course, this kind of kills the natural allure of a place, which is ironic because people go to these places for their distinct culture and environment and atmosphere, but the irony is that that begins to die the more people are interested in it, and the more they create these hotels and these high rises and these, all these other people start moving there that are not from there, and they don't come to immerse themselves into the culture. They come with their culture that they already have, and they want you to speak English when they get there, and they want to be comfortable in their own culture when they get there. And it's like, well, why did you move here? Why do you come here if you're not trying to assimilate into the culture that is already here? So if you go to Hawaii now, like, a lot of the people don't speak the language anymore. You have so many non-Hawaiian natives there. It's just a fun tourist attraction. It is not, it's in its natural state of its natural culture. Just, you know what I mean? So Puerto Rico is, there's signs of the same thing happening there. A lot of, what do you call it, anglicisms in the Spanish language in Puerto Rico. There's lots of like English loan words in there. I mean, and that happens in general. There's other Spanish dialects that have the same thing, but still it's like to a heavy degree in Puerto Rico. A lot of the fashion, a lot of the stuff is becoming like very influenced by American culture, especially, Puerto Ricans tend to go back and forth a lot between New York and Puerto Rico, or Miami and Puerto Rico. And so there's a lot of like American stuff that gets kind of dragged back in there. And then not to mention just the tourists, the tourism, the same old thing that happened. Like tourism is like, it's like a gift and a curse. It brings money to a place, but at the same time it's a culture killer. It's so weird because, like I said, the people come for the culture, but they come and they kill the culture at the same time. It's weird because like the culture has to be watered down for them into like this cute, digestible, commercialized version of what they want it to be, and you have to serve them that when they arrive, and it's like that's not what it really is. So these Puerto Rico is seeing signs of the same thing, and then if it were to become an actual state, well, now you have fears of does English become the dominant language? Do kids start going to school and like English is the language they're speaking there, not Spanish? Like what, once something becomes a state, you even more so have, this pressure to be very much so Americanized and English speaking and Anglo, and just America just kind of does that. It kills cultures that way. Um, so I said all that to say I was attracted to the song because the same thing happened to Louisiana. Of course, this happened a longer time ago with the Louisiana Purchase, but this is what happened. We have lost so much of our culture, our French and Creole languages, which Creole is a derivative of French mixed with African dialects. But yes, so after the Louisiana Purchase, when Louisiana became a state, an American state, so many of our laws were changed. The whole my Creole ethnicity, ethnic identity was done for. When once America acquired Louisiana, there was no gray areas. There was no identifying ethnically. There was no multiculturalism because a lot of Creoles, we are a mixed race, so we are multicultural. Not all of us are mixed race, but I'm saying generally a lot of us are. So just being Creole, we kind of had that Creole identity regardless of race and what have you. As time went on, we lost more and more of the culture until the French language was literally outlawed in, I don't know, in the 1900s, 1920 something or something. Whereas like in school, kids were getting beat for speaking French or for speaking Creole. It became like mandatory English and only English. At one point, of course, at the beginning, everything was in French. Then at one point, you had like official documentation would be in French and English. And then by a certain point, it was like no more French, none of it, only English. Um, so, and we have it today where almost none of us speak French anymore or Creole. In my family, the last ones to speak French or Creole are my great grandparents. So there's a lot of us now today trying to learn the language and pick it up and reclaim our heritage, because being Creole is something that is so shunned and taboo within especially a particular American community where they just do not like to hear it. When a person says they're Creole, they take it as them saying, I'm better than you, I'm not like you, I'm different. And it's like, no, it's not about being better, it's about being what you are. When someone says, I'm Japanese, is it them saying I'm better than you, or is it them simply saying what their heritage is? So just the whole Creole identity, the whole French culture, Louisiana, French colony, all that has been like darn near erased because of Americanization. So that is why the song resonates so much with me, because this did happen to us. And I would hate to see Puerto Rico, I would hate to see the current peoples right now, their great grandchildren looking like me some years down the line. Like, I want to speak Spanish again. I want to dance to salsa. I want to, pick up all these things that they once had that made them so unique and so beautiful. So whereas, their grandkids, their great grandkids, they're like, I want that thing that made my people special before. How can I get that back? And it's so hard to get it back once it's gone. So yeah, and so the song just touches me for that reason. And then I know there's also just in general, a lot of Latinos in general, especially like Caribbean Latinos who kind of have the same mixture or background that Creoles have. A lot of them look at us as a cautionary tale for what they don't want to become, because they don't want to lose their identity, their multicultural, mixed race, Latin identity. We had a French Latin identity. We had a mixed race identity for the mulatto Creoles. We don't have that anymore. So a lot of the Latinos will look at us and be like, hey, we don't want to be like the Creoles in Louisiana. Don't let that happen. And I've literally seen them like bring us up in conversation and on panels to say, hey, this is what we don't want to happen to us. And it sucks. I hate having to be a cautionary tale because it makes it feel like, dang, we're just like we're a lost cause. Then there's people saying they don't want to be like us, but it is what it is. So all we can do is try to salvage what we have left. um, and and so yeah, we're that cautionary tale, and now apparently Hawaii is a cautionary tale for Puerto Rico. And that's sad because Hawaii is also a beautiful place with a beautiful culture and beautiful people. And it's like these very exotic. I know no one likes, a lot of people don't like the word exotic. I feel like it comes from envy, honestly, but whatever. A lot of people don't like the word exotic, but it's true. Hawaii, it's an island, for goodness sake. Usually when we talk about things being exotic, we're talking about these far away island type places. And Hawaii is an exotic place with exotic people with their own language, culture, food, beauty, all of that. Puerto Rico, same thing. So I don't want to see that happen to Puerto Rico. It is happening to Hawaii, but I would love to see it stop. I know they have like their own cultural centers and their efforts they're making to preserve their culture, and I pray that they continue that, because there's nothing worse than losing your ethnic identity, your heritage, just so that people can come and party in your place. Like just like in Hawaii and Puerto Rico, New Orleans is a very big tourist attraction. We're called the Big Easy. People come there for this old world colonial charm. It's almost like being in a Caribbean city. We have a lot of Spanish architecture, the French Quarter. Like we have these things that kind of take you back in time. It's like being in another country, but it's like that continues to be less and less the case as time goes on, as we are farther and farther removed from our culture and the things that give us that charm. um, and all these tourists coming, all these, and what's worse than the tourists are the transplants, the people that live here that are not from here, and they don't fully assimilate, and they come and they want to bring their I don't want to say Starbucks. I drink Starbucks. Everyone drinks Starbucks, but I mean that's like the example. That's the thing people use. A Starbucks on every corner, a high rise apartment on every corner. These things are not our things. Um, so you have a lot of stuff like that that just like takes away from what our lore even was. And then Hurricane Katrina was another big. So we had the Louisiana Purchase. You have Hurricane Katrina was a big cultural shift for us because so many of our people were displaced. We have people that had to leave that have never returned, like our original natives. And when this happened, a lot of our original like shotgun houses, our architecture, a lot of those houses became completely destroyed. Some are still sitting there destroyed and uninhabited. Some were just removed. A lot of our low income housing, our housing projects were removed and replaced with like nicer apartments to lure in people to move here from other places. So a lot of our natives were replaced with people who aren't from here. And I want to show you guys this part of Bad Bunny's song where it talks about people leaving Puerto Rico that never wanted to leave, that dream of someday returning, much like what happened to a lot of our New Orleans natives that got displaced during Katrina. One can also draw many parallels between Hurricane Katrina and the fire in Hawaii, and the sus way in which they both came about and how it displaced a lot of natives and weakened their financial standing, and just set up both places in a way where they can be rebuilt to better accommodate transplants and tourists more so than the natives themselves. And a lot of our buildings and architecture were replaced with newer, nicer, more modern architecture. A lot of our small businesses were replaced with large commercial, what do you call them, like chains, franchises, and things like that. So a lot of this kills the culture. And these are things that just happen when places are acquired and Americanized. I want to sprinkle in another little piece of the song right here. I'm not doing it all together all at once because of copyright, but here's a few more lyrics. And it's not that I'm against them becoming a state, even though it's not my business. I'm not Puerto Rican. But if you're asking my 2 cents, it's cool, it's fine. The thing I would implore that Puerto Rico make sure, like, if you do become a state, just make sure that laws are in place that you do not lose your language more than anything else. Language is the key to culture. As long as you have your language, it's so much easier to hold on to everything else. It's so much easier for others to see you as your own people, as who you are. Once you lose that language, you lose your identity. When you're out and about in the street, how are you really any different from any other American? Language is key. So if you guys do become a state, Puerto Rico, don't let them take the language. Like Quebec in Canada, they're part of Canada, but they were able to put in law, hey, you're not taking the French language from us. There's like certain things, schools, businesses, certain things that have to operate in French. That is their language. And they made sure that wasn't taken from them. So I wish Louisiana would have done something like this. Like, hey, it's not so bad being American. Um, but if our culture could have remained intact, and over time we would have become slightly Americanized. That's inevitable. It's inevitable. We would have become slightly Americanized, but I would imagine by now we probably would be speaking English and French interchangeably, as opposed to most of us having no knowledge of French at all. So, yeah, so Puerto Rico, if you're going to become a state, I don't really know too much in depth about if it's a good idea or a bad idea, but all I say is if you do become one, just guard your culture as a whole, and especially the Spanish language. Because yes, later on your offspring can go and learn Spanish like I'm learning French, but it's not going to be your Spanish. It's not going to be the specific Puerto Rican Spanish. You're probably going to be learning some standard Spain or Mexican Spanish. And, but at least for you guys, the difference right now for Puerto Rico than it was for Louisiana and even Hawaii is that we're so far, like, there's so much that has been done and established already in Puerto Rico that's on film, that's recorded. Like, there's a cemented culture that has been recorded for years. So your offspring can always go back to it and see it and reference it. Like, it's a lot harder to lose it at this point. There's always music you guys can listen to, there's always shows you guys can watch, there's always stuff you can pull up. Even if you were to become uber Americanized tomorrow, you still have stuff. Whereas for Creoles, we became a state so long ago, we don't have a whole lot. Like, we're pulling whatever little bits of stuff we can pull, but we don't have like a whole culture that was like televised. We don't have TV shows and movies in Louisiana Creole or in Louisiana French. We don't have this stuff. So we can only work with the few books, the few little things that we may have. We have like old, like Zydeco Cajun songs that were in Louisiana French, bad quality from the early 1900s, but yeah, so you guys don't have, you know, that situation. And people aren't gonna stand for it. Like, it's a new day. I don't think people are gonna stand for it. And it's not that, you know, back in for Louisiana, people hated it. They did not see themselves as American. They did not want to become American. They did not want to lose their language. But back then, it was a lot harder to buck up against the system and Americanization, especially for the people of color. That was not going to happen. For the Black people, the mixed people, that was not going to work. But by being a new day, I think that Puerto Rico stands a chance of fighting it and maintaining a large chunk of their culture, even if they are to become a state. So I wish we had a Bad Bunny in our day. I wish we had been able to remain independent for a little while longer, just to get a lot more of our culture completely cemented in media. That would have helped a lot. But hey, it is what it is. I'm trying to be my own mini Bad Bunny and resuscitate the culture and the Creole culture as much as I can. But for you guys, you have these activists, these voices, these people that are standing up for you. So utilize it, hold on to it. So in closing, I just want to say, Puerto Rico, I love you. I am here with you. We stand with you. Do not let your culture die, whether you guys become a state or not. Do not let your culture die. It's so beautiful. It's so I tell people all the time, Puerto Rico, Puerto Ricans and Dominicans have been like my surrogate people, just because of like how diminished and squashed the Creole identity has been for so long. I would always look at both of them with a little jealousy, honestly, and be like, yo, that's what we were supposed to be. That's who we're like. That's who, like, if we could have flourished and not been stamped out and hated on so much, we would have been like the French version of that. So I always had this mixed, like, kind of jealousy thing, but like, also in love with and adore at the same time. So I would never want to see Puerto Rico lose its Puerto Rico-ness. So don't ever lose that. Bad Bunny is absolutely correct. He is so right for being in love with his island. It is a beautiful place. And for Hawaii, Hawaii is also a beautiful place. I am sad for what has happened to it thus far, but it's never too late. It's never too late. It's not dead. The culture is not dead. Even Creole culture is not dead per se. So it's never too late to take what you have and build on it, and not let go of what is left. So I would want Hawaii to hold on, just hold on to your beautiful culture as well, as well as Puerto Rico. And I'm just going to throw the Dominicans in there anyway. Y'all know I'm always caping for Dominicans. I don't care what the topic is. I'm going to somehow end up talking about Dominicans, because since we're talking about identity and loss of culture and loss of identity, Dominicans, don't let anybody tell you who y'all are, what y'all have to be, what y'all have to claim, who you have to be. No, you're Dominican. You guys are proud of your country. You're proud of your entire mixture. Keep doing that. Keep being who you are, because people are fixated on your identity for a reason. People don't fixate on things that they're not jealous of, or just have some type of, like, they're triggered by it. Why are they triggered by it? Who knows? But they're not harassing you and your identity and trying to change it for no reason. They did it to us, and they pretty much conquered us. There's like a handful like me out there that's like, no. But for the most part, as a whole, they conquered us, and they're trying to do y'all the same thing. And most of y'all are aware of that. Don't let that happen. Um, don't let that happen. But yeah, so we've reached the end of the road. Um, so yeah, guys, and this goes for any culture. So there's lots of endangered cultures out there, lots of smaller cultures. Don't let any bigger nation, bigger group of people, bigger anything tell y'all who y'all have to be. South African coloreds have been faced with this a good bit since Tyler came out, and there's been this whole back and forth about their identity. Y'all's identity is what it is in your country. Stand on that. Don't let people from a whole nother country tell you what your identity has to be. No, it's not their business. That's what happened to us Creoles. We became Americans, so people felt like they could tell us what it had to be. And what could we do? We're Americans. The rest of you guys have the luxury of not being Americans. And I know that's what Puerto Ricans are afraid of, because once you become an American, it's like people can, you know, don't let it happen. Don't let you guys put laws in place before it even happens to safeguard your culture and your identity. Because there will be, besides America, the government itself, there will be people hating on you and trying to drag you out of your culture because they don't want you to have something they don't have. Don't let them do that. So that's the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe, turn the notification bell on, all that good stuff. And until next time, talk to you guys soon. Au revoir. Quieren quitarme el río y también la playa.